Hi, I'm Greg Weeks, and today we're going to cover the pros and cons of a small company versus a large company. So, what we're going to cover today is in five different categories: the types of projects that you work on, training, company stability, pay and bonuses, and career progression. The types of projects you can work on at a small firm like Weeks Engineering. You have a range of projects in terms of the size. They can be small or large, and it may be just one individual on a project team, or it might be a large number of persons who are on the team. And there's a lot of variety because there's also a lot of projects they'd be working on in any given year. The names of the clients would be local names, people you may or may not know, people in the community, local businesses, and it all goes up all the way up to large multinational corporations. There's more of a focus on the design results and the solutions rather than just flashy graphics, imagery renderings that don't really add a lot of value for certain projects. We want to put those times and efforts into the results and the solutions that provide value to the clients. Junior staff have more involvement in the meetings. They're more involved in the design decisions and the recommendations. Staff in general, there's more site visits involved. There's much more frequent at a smaller firm. You get to see what your design is, how it gets implemented, and see it come to life. You see a project from the design concept, the permitting stage, the construction plans, site issues, all the way to final sign off. You see it from beginning to end. And a large portion of the background in your professional training and academics, you actually will use a large portion of that in your job function. At a large company, you work on multidisciplinary projects more often. It won't just be one narrow trade, it'll be a large variety and a full scope of engineering disciplines often brought into the project. You'll be able to have prominent client names, often with brand recognition. The bigger firms tend to work with the bigger name clients. Software and graphics often have good visuals. We spoke about that earlier. Work on a small part of a big design. So you have a very small portion of the design role, but the design team might have 50 or 100 people in it, and you're one person and one party to that. Senior managers make the decisions and attend the meetings. Junior staff may not attend at all. Junior staff have little impact on the outcomes, and the input of a junior staffer may be limited. Site visits may not happen very often or at all. We've run into many junior staffers who are applying for a job at Weeks Engineering, and they in several years had not even attended a job site even once. At a larger firm, you may not see the whole project from completion to final occupancy handover. Your role might be limited to just to a part of it. And there may be a limited amount of the background and training of your professional background in your academics that would be able to use on the job and for the client project. Training at a smaller company such as Weeks Engineering. The training is detailed to your progression and is reviewed semi-annually. The defined training is to industry standards and associations, which I'll mention below. Above average per person budgeting and training resources are available. There's shadowing with your coworkers as part of your ongoing onboarding process, as well as part of the ongoing training throughout the years. There's access to senior staff for mentoring and training. There's a detailed training program for each person that's specific to their career path and also their licensing. The industry training is through ASHRAE, NFPA, CISC, CWC, OSPE, Prior, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, as well as others, and it's tailored and specific to your career path. Training that's offered at Weeks Engineering is well above the industry averages in the total content and value that's offered. Training at a large company. Typically, there are a variety of standardized training options. The defined training is to the corporate systems and methods. The budgets may be limited on a per person basis given the total number of staff that are at a firm. So if there's 100 or 500 people at a firm and they have a training budget, the amount of training dollars per person is by definition limited just because the training budget for the overall corporation cannot be accommodated. There's many coworkers to learn from and to shadow from at a large firm. Senior manager mentoring may not be readily accessible. It may be hard to get to that superior boss, that person higher up the corporate chain, just because of the nature and the size of the organization. Also, senior management may not even be in your own local office or city. Training may be more of a general type and not necessarily tailored to your career path. Industry associations and management training options may be limited. Training may be geared towards a minimum. We've seen this at several firms where they do basically the minimum training that'll get them by. Pay and bonuses at Weeks Engineering. It's offered competitive industry salary. The salary is based on a customized performance grid. Bonuses that are offered are above the industry average with a performance multiplier for the efforts and achievements of you, the individual. Benefits include a health spending account for medical, dental, and general health, and any unused monies are given to the employee at the end of the year. Pay and bonuses at a large company. Larger companies offer competitive industry salaries. Salaries are based on a standard company grid. The efforts of an individual may not be recognized within a certain pay grid. So if you put in that extra effort and your pay grid does not let you move up the chain, you won't get the extra compensation. Bonuses may be lower based on the overall department or company performance and may not be linked directly to your performance. Weak staff and low performers also get bonuses as well as the top performers. The benefits at larger companies, they have extended healthcare, dental, retirement plan, co-pays, merchant discounts. The larger companies usually offer a wider range of benefits. Company stability. At a smaller firm like Weeks Engineering, there's a large variety of clients and of projects. You're not tied to one large client or one large project. There's a large variety involved. Contract workers and design workers are not used. The full-time staff at the firm handle the design work. There's a smaller and flatter management structure, and of course, there's smaller overall revenues. The ramping of staffing to specific projects is not done. We don't scale up staff and scale down staff based on the project. We work with a standard baseline of staff. Projects are taken on with permanent staff and worked into the overall workload. Staff are hired and kept on board for future projects. Again, no ramping up and ramping down. There's a focus on private contracts that are not subject to the Government of Ontario or federal government debt risk. That means the spending risk of the government, because the government could just stop spending money on capital projects. We have very few government contracts in general. There is a personal relationship with the company. You know the owners, the management, and they know you. At a large company, your role is often tied to a large client or a large project. There's often tiers of contract workers assigned to a project that make more than the full-time salaried staff, meaning they often bring in contract workers for a specific number of months, and their wages and compensation are higher than the permanent full-time staff. The overall firm is stable through the management structure and the revenue streams. There is a risk of layoff when a large project is complete. Staffing is often geared up and geared down to large projects. We've actually seen this many times where staff work on a project for 2 or 3 years. They work on one very large project, and at the end of the project, the entire department is laid off. Large companies, they seek government contracts. Ontario is the largest sub-sovereign debtor in the world right now in the year 2025, and that's a capital spending risk because the first thing governments do is when they run out of money is they cut capital projects rather than cutting staff. Also, larger firms, as a follow-up to that, they tend not to have as many private clients as a proportion. Larger companies, there's a risk of just being a number within the ranks. There's less of a personal relationship. You may rarely see the management in charge. They may be in a different building, a different province, or a different city. Career progression. At a smaller firm like Weeks Engineering, there's a shorter and smaller hierarchy where you can work towards your customized career path. Responsibilities are based on your abilities, your aptitudes, and your maximum potential. All members of the team are able to obtain their professional licensing as part of their continual career progression. We support you in your career licensing and goals. You can grow along with the company. The management decisions can be tailored to one's strengths, so your strengths can be part of the plan. Career progression at a large company. There's a defined hierarchy and a clear path. There's the potential to move up or laterally to one location or by relocating. You may have to wait for a vacancy to occur in order to move up. Your licensing support, it may be encouraged or it may not. We've seen it happen both ways. Your growth personally may outpace what is available within that fixed hierarchy. So to summarize, there's advantages and disadvantages to working at a larger firm or a smaller firm such as Weeks Engineering. You need to find out what is the best fit for you. Thank you for watching.